What's up everybody, Jared here with carbuzz.com, and as you may or may not have heard, the Hummer name is back, but not as you remember it. General Motors has brought back the Hummer name as a GMC. They're going to be selling two vehicles that we know of so far, an SUV that has not been released yet, and this, the GMC Hummer EV pickup. I know it's kind of confusing, so they have the GMC Hummer EV pickup and the GMC Hummer SUV. This is the only one that is out right now. I am testing a 2022 model called the Edition 1. It's like the first one they've been able to deliver. It has the craziest drivetrain, which we'll talk about in a little bit. This is basically the craziest GMC truck that you can buy right now. And because I'm an automotive journalist, I sometimes forget that not everybody is privy to what's going on in the automotive industry right now. So a lot of people have been giving me the stink eye while driving this car because, you know, it's a Hummer, it's large, it's kind of obnoxious, it's crazy. But a lot of people don't know that it's electric. And that is why I have brought it to one of my local charging stations, because I might as well get some juice while I film this video, because this has a very large, very crazy battery that takes a long time to charge. So I thought I'd get some juice. But we are going to talk about this car, who it's for, who would buy one, does it really compare with other electric pickup trucks that are on the market, like the Ford F-150 Lightning, the Rivian R1T, and whether or not you should actually consider buying one. So we're going to start off with the styling, which I think they did a great job for what they were trying to do. This looks like a Hummer. It's absolutely crazy. We've got one big connected headlight bar here. It looks insane at night with just one solid piece of light across the front. As you can see, the headlights are currently showing me the state of charge. So right now I'm at about 70% battery, which is why there's so much blue light here. And as you can see, the rest of it is kind of doing this motion to let you know that it's currently charging. I think that is a really, really cool feature. This is not the only electric truck that does that though. This thing is absolutely massive. It's about 212 feet long, but the really big dimension is the width. It's about 93 inches wide. It's absolutely massive. To put that into perspective, a Silverado 1500 is about 82 inches wide. So this is a wide boy. And it would be almost impossible to maneuver this thing around if not for the rear wheel steering feature, which I'll talk to you about in this video. So the proportions of this thing are absolutely crazy. It has that big boxy Hummer look. We've got 35-inch Goodyear Wrangler off-road tires. We've got air suspension that can lift the vehicle up. We've got 18-inch wheels. We've got big, bulky running boards right here. Right here is our big Hummer badge that lets us know that it is an electric vehicle. And as you can see here, we've got our charger. Right now I'm just charging on a 240, but of course you can DC fast charge this vehicle as well. Here in the back, we've got the pickup truck, as I've mentioned before. So we have about a 5-foot bed. It's not a super big bed. You can't get anything longer on this Hummer. It only comes as this one configuration, but you do get GMC's cool multi-pro tailgate. So you can drop down just this portion right here, and then you can go ahead and flip this up as well. So it kind of makes like a bed stop, which is kind of neat. And then if I can find the button here, I can drop the whole tailgate. Perhaps I need to, let's put this back up, and then I'll drop the whole tailgate like so. And then what you can do is drop that, goes down, drop this. So it's hard to do with one hand. And then you have a kicker audio system. We've seen this before from GMC. This is not a Hummer specific feature, but this is something new. We've got a power tonneau cover. We just have one button, you push it, it's gonna slide back. As you're gonna see, it's going to stop. It doesn't quite go back all the way, at least on the motor. There is a release in there that you can kind of unplug and then push it back all of the way. So you can get a lot of storage, and it doesn't take too much up of the bed, but this is definitely not the most practical bed that you can get on a truck or even an EV truck. The F-150 Lightning, I think, is a little bit longer. So keep that in mind if you're looking at this for max practicality. And they are coming out with an SUV model that'll have an enclosed storage area that's a little bit shorter than this. Here in the bed, as we can use our handy bed step to get up, we also have some lighting. We've got some drainage as well. And we do have like a 120 volt household outlet here. This is not as powerful as what you can get in the Ford F-150 Lightning though, with its max power. And one small note I want to make about this tonneau cover is I've had some issues with it. I don't know if it's getting off of the rail or what have you, but as you can see, it is refusing to shut all the way. I'm gonna have to go in there and delatch it, bring it back and make sure it gets back on. But as of right now, when I close the bed, people can just take whatever they want out of it. It's an issue that I've been dealing with all week and I have not found a solution for it yet. So it is a pretty useful pickup truck, although it is not like the most practical pickup truck money can buy. All right, so now let's check out the interior, where if you watched my review of the GMC Sierra AT4X, I thought the GMC came a long way with making its interiors a lot nicer. But this Hummer is not their best effort. We have this cool lunar pattern that looks great. We have like this kind of white finish up here, and then we have black leather down here. It looks really nice, but I think that some of the materials in here just don't feel like this is $100,000 vehicle, and this is over $100,000. We do have some bronze accents here that I do like around like the air vents and stuff. I think the bronze accent's quite cool. Gives it like a splash of color in here. But yeah, this is definitely not the nicest interior that GMC makes. I think like the Sierra Denali Ultimate is just overall a nicer interior. That being said, we do have some nice technology in here. We do have Super Cruise, which is great. That is going to come standard on this version of the Hummer. That means you can drive on highways hands-free. We also have this absolutely massive digital gauge cluster. It's 12.3 inches, so you have your speed and your kilowatt usage over there, and you can obviously have different things on here. I'm going to crank the air a little bit because it is actually getting quite hot in here. And then over here, we have our massive 13.4 inch infotainment display powered by Android, which is quite cool. So it has a Google UI. So when you go to your map, it's actually going to be a Google map, which is really great. So I love this because when you put in like a charging destination, it's gonna tell you how much range you're expected to arrive with there, which is just a really nice feature. So if I go ahead and let's say click this blink one, it's gonna tell me that I'm gonna arrive there with 69% battery. I think that is really useful, and I think more EVs should have this Google UI. I know Volvo and Polestar currently do, but not very many others. There's a lot of other cool things that we can do here on this screen. You can activate the off-road experience, so you can have all of these different gauges and whatnot. You can have different auxiliary buttons that you can program. You can actually change these. They have different icons here. So here we go. So you can have DC AC, you can have like a little octopus. There's some really good ones. There's a Sasquatch by the looks of it. There are some really funny digs in here. Let me see if I can find them. Basically digs at Ford, and so here's one. So here's one where it's kind of shooting like rocks at a T-Rex or at a Raptor, and then there's like it crushing the Raptor and a T-Rex with a meteor. And then this is my favorite one. This is it driving up a ramp using the Cybertruck as a ramp. I think that is absolutely hilarious that GM decided to do that. We also have the Google Assistant, which is really useful. So you can say things like, hey Google, what was the score of the Dallas Cowboys game last night? And it just knows that because it's always connected to Google. So you can ask it pretty much anything that you would ask one of your Google devices at home. So I think that is just a super useful feature. One thing I will say about this system though, it is a little bit laggy to do some things. So like certain menus, like to put it into watts to freedom and stuff like that, take like a split second and the screen kind of lags a little bit. Maybe a software update would fix that, but as of right now, I just want to let you know it is a little laggy in my usage, but the system itself, if it functioned perfectly, is a really, really good system. It's the same one that you'll get in the new Chevy Silverado and the GMC Sierra as well. We also have the Ultra Vision cameras, which again, this is one of my favorite features in this truck, and it's part of the reason why this massive vehicle that's wider than anything I've ever driven is actually not that hard to park. So the cameras are just super HD, as you can see. There's really just like so much clarity to them, and you have like 18 different camera angles. You're really just not gonna have any trouble parking if you use this. You can see the wheels, you can see the tow hitch, you can see all of these different views. There's even a camera underneath the car. So there it is, it's underneath the car. So this is perfect if you're off-roading and trying to not like scrape the bottom over rocks. And if it gets muddy, you can even push this button and it'll wash it. That is such a cool feature. GMC really kind of thought of everything with that. So that is a really nice feature there as well, and I do like this system overall. Down here we have some physical controls that aren't labeled, but you kind of see what they do on these little screens here. So we have our diff locks, we have our rear diff lock, and then you can lock the front and rear diffs. We have heated and ventilated seats. I think that not labeling them makes you have to kind of glance at it a little bit longer than you would if it was just a labeled button, but it's not too bad. We have plenty of storage here. We've got our cup holders here. We have a wireless charger down here. We have our shifter. These are all of our drive modes that we can play around with. So the drive modes, see, there you go. It takes a little bit of a second. These are powered by the Unreal Engine, these different icon animations. We have a normal mode, a my mode, off-road mode, terrain mode, tow haul, and you can customize the my mode and things like that. And then you have your different functions for crab walk. These are your air suspension buttons. And then this one is the your mode. It'll activate the your mode that you could program, which I think GMC hasn't even decided what this button exactly does yet. This is gonna be your rear wheel steering button. You can turn on and off the rear wheel steering. I've been leaving it on because it's so useful. And if you hold this button, that's gonna let you activate the crab walk function. Here in the back seat, there's not quite as much to talk about. We have a good amount of leg room. I mean, this is a pickup truck, it's a massive vehicle. However, it's not quite as much legroom as you'll get from like a Ram 1500, or I think even like a GMC Sierra has a little bit more legroom. So it's a little disappointing in that capacity, but I think most people are going to be comfortable back here. Just like some other GM trucks, we have some hidden storage here in the seat. You can also lift up the seat and you can have some storage in there as well, which is quite useful. And then putting it down requires you to just kind of give it a lot of pressure and then it'll go back down. We've got some rubber floors in here as well with some cool topography on it, which is a nice touch. We have a little bit of storage down here in the center console, a USB, a USB-C, heated seats, no ventilated seats, and we have our climate controls back here. And before we get the Hummer out on the road, I gotta talk about one of the most unique features, which is the infinity roof with these sky panels. So as you can see, the entire roof is made out of like glass, but it's actually not glass. It's more of like a plexi material, meaning that it is much lighter than glass, which is handy because these panels actually all lift out. There are 4 of them. Each one only requires 2 latches. So you just undo a latch here, undo this latch here, and then the roof panel will pop out. And then this little cross brace over here is going to stay in. So it's technically a T-top roof. And then the coolest thing about these are that they come out, but then they fit in the front trunk. So because we don't have an engine up here and there's a massive amount of space, GMC was able to integrate a front trunk. So you get these little bags, you just stick all of the roof panels in here, and I have fit all 4 in there, and it's really not all that difficult to do. They fit in the front. If you're not gonna ever take the roof panels off, you can just take the bags out. We do have the charging cable in here as well that's included with this vehicle, or you could just use this as storage space. It's a very, very useful feature. And to further improve that open top feel, you can also lower the rear window of this truck, which is really cool. This used to be like a standout feature of the Toyota Tundra, but GMC copied it, and it really gives you just that like open Jeep feel that no other pickup truck on the market has besides the Jeep Gladiator. All right, so now it's time to get the GMC Hummer EV pickup out on the road. And as I mentioned, we're driving the Edition 1, so we have the fastest drivetrain available. We've got one electric motor at the front, and then we have two electric motors for a total of 3 at the back. Now, as you're driving around normally, these motors are going to produce 835 horsepower, meaning that pretty much any gap in the road you want, it's there, it's available. It is super quick. It's amazing that this thing weighs as much as it does. It's over 9,000 pounds, but it can get up and go very easily. You just put your foot on the throttle, oh, you get a little bit of fake engine noise, you know, a little rumble to give you that kind of primal feeling that you would get from a gasoline motor, but of course it's electric. Now, if you want the full 1,000 horsepower, yes, this truck has 1,000 horsepower, you have to activate Watts to Freedom. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to have the wheel straight and you're going to double tap the traction control button. You're going to feel the seat vibrate and it's going to give you a little warning label here. Vehicle will lower, check your surroundings. You're going to click that. And now it is going to hunker the vehicle down using that air suspension. This process takes a little while, so you're not really going to be able to do this in traffic unless you know the light is really, really long, but I don't recommend doing this in traffic because it is quite dangerous. This truck will do 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds with this Watts to Freedom mode. Watts to Freedom, WTF. Yes, GM's engineers are children. So now that I'm in Watts to Freedom, if I put my left foot on the brake, it's going to tell me to brake harder, as hard as I can, and now it's going to tell me to floor it. So I'm going to do that, flooring it, and then it says release brake. Woo-hoo! Oh my God. That was 0 to 60 in 3 seconds in a vehicle the size of a house. That should not be physically possible, but it was. Oh my God, I got to do that again. All right, let's see here. I've got another little straight. I'm still in Watts to Freedom. It says standby. Now it says armed. Now it says floor it. Release brake. Oh, oh my God. Because it's on mud terrain tires, it just goes. Nothing with these types of tires should be able to do what this thing does. And now that I'm in Watts to Freedom, like, oh, it just makes the vibrations even louder now. Now I get to a turn and I realize that this thing weighs 9,000 pounds. So it's extremely fast in acceleration, but when it comes to a turn, which we're about to get up to here, or braking, it's still massive. It doesn't have a lot of grip. This is not a sports car, folks. It may be able to beat most supercars in a drag race, or at least to 60 miles an hour, but it is no sports car. This thing feels absolutely massive. I cannot state that enough. That the proportions of this truck are absolutely ridiculous, if not borderline unusable. However, because it has 4-wheel steering, those rear wheels can really do a lot of steering. It's really not that bad. Because of the cameras, as I mentioned before, you can actually get this thing into parking spots with ease. This is actually a little bit easier to maneuver in like a tight parking garage versus like a normal full-size truck. So I'm really impressed with that. The turning radius is simply incredible. I cannot believe that a vehicle like this can just, I'm just gonna do a quick turnaround here. Oh my God, the fact that it can turn around the way that it does is simply incredible. I honestly don't believe it. And then of course you can do the crab walk. So that requires a bit of a setup as well. You have to hold one of these buttons down here and then the car will kind of walk side to side. These are pretty useful if you're going to off-road it because it's so massive and you don't want to scrape this vehicle up because it is quite expensive. So these are all really impressive demonstrations of how GMC was able to make this just a pinnacle of off-road and electric technology. I'm going to do a launch without Watts to Freedom on just to see how quick it feels. Ready? Woo. Okay, really quick, but not like, oh my God, throw you into the back of the seat craziness. So when you're just driving around normally, it's quick, but not insane. I mentioned that we have Super Cruise, meaning that you can drive this on the highway hands-free. However, because of the removable panels with this plexiglass, it's quite loud in here because there's no engine drowning that out. You hear a lot of the tire noise, especially at high speeds. So while this is very comfortable thanks to the air suspension, it actually rides really, really well. Because of the wind noise and the overall build quality, it just doesn't feel like a premium thing that I'd like to spend like 1,000 miles on a road trip in. I think I'd rather drive GMC's other luxury truck, like a GMC Sierra Denali Ultimate. That has massage seats, that has a nicer interior, it's a lot quieter on the road, but in terms of sheer capability and sheer impressiveness, I'm definitely impressed with how the Hummer drives. If not for that rear wheel steer though, I can't even imagine driving around something this big. All right, so now that we've driven the Hummer, we've got to stop and talk about this car's dirty little secret. That 320-mile range is great. In fact, I think it's class leading for pickup trucks, although it's technically not an EPA rating, but we'll digress. The big problem with that range is that it takes forever to charge the Hummer. This thing has a 212 kilowatt hour battery. And if you don't know anything about EVs, kilowatt hours is basically like how many gallons are in your gas tank, how many kilowatt hours are in the battery. This thing has 212. A Tesla Model S or Model X have about 100 kilowatt hours. So this is more than double the size of those. So imagine you have like a very slow gasoline hose and you're trying to fill up a gas tank. This is basically trying to fill up double the size of a gasoline tank. It takes forever. Now, luckily, the Hummer has one of the quickest charge speeds of any EV on the market. It can charge at 350 kilowatts. Kilowatts are how quickly all of the juice from the charger will go in the truck. So at 350 kilowatts, this can add 100 miles of range in just 10 minutes. So you're really looking at like a 30 or 40 minute charge if you're on one of those DC fast chargers that can give you that much juice. However, if you're on a level 2, which is what I find mostly where I live in Central Florida, there aren't that many DC fast chargers, you're only going to be adding about 16 miles per hour. And that is assuming you have one of the faster level 2s, which this is not. This is only adding about 9 miles of range per hour, which is probably what you're gonna get when you plug the Hummer in at home. So I've been filming this video for about an hour and I haven't even added 10 miles of range to the Hummer. So you gotta factor that in if you're buying this. If this is your second or third vehicle and you can leave it in the garage parked for a few days, it's not gonna be a problem. But if you're commuting 50, 60 miles, 30 miles to work every day, charging it at home, this just isn't gonna work unless you have a 350 kilowatt charger that you can use on the weekends or at work or what have you. You can also plug the Hummer in on a 110 outlet, but good luck if you're doing that. It's probably going to take you over a week to charge like that. So that is the big problem with this and why we need to stop measuring electric vehicles only by how far they will go on a charge. We need to measure them by how efficient they are. Because this thing is so big and it weighs so much, just those batteries alone weigh 2,700 pounds, more than my entire Porsche Boxster weighs, not including motors or anything else like that. It is so heavy. That is why this truck weighs over 9,000 pounds. It weighs more than a Ford F450, and it is not very efficient per kilowatt hour of the battery. Hummer may no longer be a gas guzzler, but this one is a wattage waster, charge blaster, whatever you want to call it. It's a guzzler. All right, so let's sum up our time with the 2022 GMC Hummer EV pickup. Who the heck would buy one of these things? I think if you are an early adopter towards EVs and maybe you have a Tesla Plaid in the garage and you have a Raptor that you like driving around or a Ram T-Rex and the gas bills are just starting to drive you crazy and you want to get rid of the Tesla and get rid of the Raptor or the T-Rex and go down to just one vehicle, this is perfect. It's literally the acceleration of a Tesla with the crazy insaneness of a Raptor or a T-Rex all in one vehicle. Other than that, I'm kind of struggling to find out who would buy this because the price of this Edition 1 model, which is sold out, you can't even like buy one unless you're buying it secondhand, is about $110,000. But as we've seen on like used auction sites, because there are so few of these and people do want them, people are paying $170,000, even $200,000 to get one. GMC will eventually create a cheaper version that comes in just under 100 grand. That's gonna get you a 250-mile range, about 630 horsepower. You don't have 3 motors, you only have 2 motors on that model, but we are a long ways out from that one being available. The Hummer is basically a toy. It is to show the craziness of what electric motors can do in a flashy aspect, but I'm way more excited to drive the upcoming Chevrolet Silverado EV and GMC Sierra EV. Those are gonna offer a 400-mile range, a much more useful proportions, and overall, I think those are just going to be what Americans really want. This is more of a toy, albeit a really cool one. I really hope you've enjoyed this look at the 2022 GMC Hummer. For more videos like it, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to read more about the GMC Hummer, be sure to check out carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.